Hi, my name is Jacob Dickey, and this is my final project for History of Motion Picture Arts, The Evolution of Comedy in Film. From the early 1900s, comedy has been a prevalent theme in film. Comedy is a release. It's time to laugh and forget about your current state of affairs, and a time to enjoy the folly of a character as it tells a story on screen. The evolution or history of comedy in film is as varied as the technology used to create and view the movies themselves. There are several genres of film within the actual comedy genre. One being a comedy of manners, which is based on social class issues, dark comedies that can be based on heavy subjects like murder or abuse, fish out of water, where the characters find themselves usually out of place in an unfamiliar situation, gross out films, which are based usually on toilet humor. They're usually geared to the teen and tween market. Parodies and spoofs, they're very common. They rely on heavy themes of mockery and sarcasm. Romantic comedies, or rom-coms, that's the comedic adventures of two lovers. And screwball comedies, which feature zany and physical humor. And a lot of times they take these genres and they mash them together to produce another all-new type of a genre, such as an example of an action comedy or a sci-fi comedy. Great example of a sci comedy would be the film Spaceballs. Comedy films first appeared in the early 1900s, and the very first comedy film copyrighted in the United States was the 5-second long Fred Out Sneeze, which is playing here on this slide. Because of the limitations of filmmaking at the time, most of the early comedies were silent, and early films relied heavily on physical humor and pantomime, slapstick, to convey the point across to the audience. And as sound films came into the realm of possibility, the comedic actors didn't have to rely so heavily on timing or physical slapstick to get their point across because the audiences could actually hear what they were saying. Screwball comedies were very popular in the early rise of talkie films, and The Three Stooges is an excellent example of screwball comedy. I'm going to play just a short clip for you. Between the 30s and 50s, the big comedic film players in this time period were W.C. Fields, the Marx Brothers, and Laurel and Hardy. Then, when the United States kind of geared up for World War II, the mood in Hollywood turned towards films about the war, but comedy films kind of took that from a humorous standpoint. And in the early 50s, the comedy industry kind of turned more towards adult situation comedies, and Walt Disney Studios kind of remained focused on the family friendly comedies. Excuse me. From the 1960s to the 1990s, Peter Sellers' The Pink Panther was a really popular film during this early portion of the time period, and Woody Allen and Mel Brooks were two popular comedic film writers, and they wrote, directed, and produced most of the movies that they put out there. And from the 90s to the current day, in the early 90s, it saw an explosion of romantic comedies. When Harry Met Sally, Sleepless in Seattle, and You've Got Mail were some really popular films at the time. Spoof movies were also popular in the mid 90s, early 2000s. But it seems like since the late 2000s, the comedy genre has kind of taken a bit of a nosedive. But as of late, it's kind of started to pick back up. And comedy films are still popular because everyone likes a good laugh. And the comedy film industry has continued to build upon itself from its early beginnings in the 1900s. It's never really stopped. To close, I thought it'd be interesting to show the top 10 grossing comedy films. This list come from IMDb. The first one being Shrek 2, and the last one being The Hangover in 2009. And here is a list of references for my slideshow presentation. Thank you.